It was a day full of celebrations, eating and drinking of varieties of delicacies, all thanks to Mr. Fred and his wife, whom invited the whole village to come merry with them as they celebrate the naming of their beautiful twins, who came after 8 whole years of waiting. The mother, who was beautifully dressed, carrying the girl, is lost in thought. She is teary, thinking about all she had to put up with while waiting and believing God for at least a child. She was jacked back into reality by a pinch on her hands by the suckling child. She smiled even though it was a bit painful. She smiled as she caresses the baby. Almost immediately, her twin sister came to meet her. "Mommy Twizzle, some of your guests are going. The clouds are really thick, and it's true, they need to get home before it begins to rain. I can't remember where we kept those." "Ah, are you crying?" "No," she said. Tears of joy." Her sister rubs her cheeks. "God be praised, my dear, stop it." "The souvenir, you mean?" "It's in the red Ghana must go under the bed," her sister replied. "Okay." As sister was leaving, her husband came in with a crying baby. "My dear, he's hungry," handing over the boy to her while her sister collects the girl. Women were all over the place cleaning up and washing plates. It was a hectic day. The next morning was going to be a Monday. Mr. Fred will have to travel to the big city to meet a client to finalize the contract. "Wish me well, my dear, and take care of you and the children. All things being equal, I'll be back on Wednesday." She was looking moody. "Don't miss me too much, my love," he said. "I'll be back before you know it." Why didn't I beg sister to stay back with you while I'm away?" "We'll be fine, honey, don't worry. Just be at your best for the meeting," she replied. "The children are sleeping peacefully, unlike them. They don't usually sleep at once." She was happy and decided to take a nap too and rest a bit. All of a sudden, it began to thunder. She woke up abruptly from her sleep, checked out of the window to see a pregnant sky. She closes the windows and curtains, hurries to cover her babies, but the breeze seemed to be much. It's forcing its way into the room. She was trying to close back the window when she heard a sound that she couldn't place. At the same time, she was too scared to look through the window. The big tree behind their house fell on the roof with a very mighty sound that woke the children from their sleep. She is confused and didn't know what to do. To close the open windows or to pick the crying children. She suddenly hears the cry of villagers. She backed the girl and picked the boy up. "Run, everybody! Run to the hills! Run as fast as you can!" She couldn't remember to pick anything but their bathtub and some few other things she could just pick. Within a twinkle of an eye, the whole town is flooded. Everybody running helter-skelter. The storm lasted for a while. Rushing, shouting, wailing was heard everywhere. After a long while, rescuers came into help. A lot of casualties were found. Crying was heard from all corners of the town. One of the babies was among the survivors. At the dawn of the next day, some of the bodies were taken to the next village where there was a mortuary. Some were buried since their families were there to claim and identify the bodies. Mr. Fred didn't return on Wednesday as promised. He came back on Thursday evening, welcomed by some elders and their church priest. He burst into shouts when told his wife is among those who lost their lives. A woman brought his daughter to him. He held her tight and cried the more. The boy was nowhere to be found. But the search is not over, Mr. Fred, said the priest. We are hopeful. He will be found, since his body is not found. Mr. Fred narrated the story to his beautiful daughter of how they lost her brother and their mother, and how he dedicated his life to taking care of her all these years. They seemed happy, but missing a part of their lives. Flora was leaving for school the next day. They were preparing as she would be away for a long time. She wouldn't come home until she is done with her project. She's so engrossed with her books, but tired and would not want to leave until she reached her target. A boy sat beside her in the library, looking at her standing. Chill, young lady, he said. Relax, you are tired obviously. You cannot finish reading the whole books in this library. Remain for us, oh. She smiled and continued her work. That was the beginning of a friendship that became the center of gossip on campus. They were so fond of each other. Dominic rounding up his project too as an engineer. Although he was working in his father's company, he helped Flora a whole lot since he had more experience and resources at his disposal. He spoke to Flora's father a number of times, and they were getting so fond of each other even before they met. As the days was approaching for their graduation, it was a serious plan as Flora's father was to come over. But as the days come closer, he was a bit down the weather, so he couldn't come. But Auntie Jane, her mother's twin sister, came to support her since she was living in a big city with her family. Dominic promised to see her father as they were getting fond of each other. Whenever it's raining, Flora gets so emotional. She cries sometimes, relating the rain and storm to the incidents that took her brother and mother away from them. She told Dominic she wouldn't be living in the rainy season until the rains are over. But he was eager to see her father. What if I offer to drive you down to the village in my jeep? Even if it rains, you wouldn't know? They both laughed over it. He convinced her as he was traveling to work not very far from her village. They set a day to travel. He came quite early to pick her up, and as it was, there was no sign of cloud at all that day. The trip was a smooth one, and a surprise to Papa, who was just coming back from his backyard garden to see his daughter coming down from a big car. They both ran and embraced each other. She introduced Dominic and they got along quite fast. Flora was busy in the kitchen when Dominic sneaked to tell Papa of his intention to marry Flora. He begged Papa not to let her know, that it should be their little secret at least for a while. It was a good day, but Dominic had to leave to the next city to meet up for his meeting, first thing the next morning. His attention was caught by the frame on the wall, even though Flora never told him anything about her family. He knew it was something he would hear someday. He left, but came back 2 days after his meeting. Flora and Papa were happy to see him. All of a sudden, it began to rain. Flora was cold. Papa had to tell him the whole story. He was cold too, but their mood was changed as their chat continued. Towards evening, Flora was seeing Dominic off to his car and he dropped a ring on the floor. She looked down to see what it was. and voila, it was a planned surprise to engage her. She accepted to marry him. It was a joyful moment for the three of them. A day was set for the first week in the coming month for their engagement. He was coming with his parents and few elders. Since the wedding was going to be in the city, there was no need to bring a large crowd over. The day came so fast. Flora is nervous. Grandma stood by them all the preparation. It was going on well, and the big day was here. It was just a small one. Papa had mixed feelings. Grandma used to help with the twins ever since they were born. She had been a widow as far as anyone can remember, but she's good with nursing newborns. She helped Papa to take care of Flora after the demise of their mother. She helped to dress Flora on her big day. "You are the most beautiful bride I have seen in a long time. Your husband is so lucky to have you." They both laughed. Towards evening, 2 cars drove into the compound. There was joy on Flora and Papa's face. The both families exchanged pleasantries. Grandma seemed nervous. She was a bit tensed. She had to call Papa inside. "I'm sorry, my son. My mind is telling me, this don't make. Are you sure he's not Flora's missing brother?" Papa was speechless. "Grandma, why do you say so?" Dominic was called inside. He has no idea what they were talking about, but Grandma was so sure. "He's lost." His mother gave them some revelation after she was called. This is what she kept without telling anyone all these years except her father. Dominic was adopted actually, but he's our son. Grandma busted. "I just knew. This cut on his ear was an accident that happened while I was beating him at just some weeks old." Mr. Fred remembered, but he didn't notice. No wonder the attraction between us is out of this world. It's not a mistake. Even if love is lost, we are united, Dominic said after a long deliberation. It was an evening of mixed feeling, but the twins were happy at least to have found each other instead of a marriage introduction. It was a sibling reunion. "What a day," Papa said with tears of joy rolling down his cheeks, embracing his children after years of agony and loss of hope that the boy will never come to them again. That is the end of the story. Moral lesson: be good to everyone you meet. You might be nice to your angel. Thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel so that you get more updates as soon as we drop more stories and life-changing lessons. Catch ya!